didn't seem to be worried at all.
No.
You're like, yeah, it's okay. We'll try working out tomorrow. Yeah, okay.
Tomorrow's the flight day.
Yeah.
Hello Internet, welcome back. This is Sierra.
Hi, I'm Mr.
And on our channel today, we are going to be doing day 14, 15, and 16 of our China adoption vlog. If you haven't seen all of our China vlogs up to this point, I'm going to put a link to our playlist up in the cards and also in the description for you guys to check that out. We are going to be talking about a lot of different things within this video, and if you don't know what happened in the past, some of it might not make sense, so feel free to like click off this video, go watch those, come back, or watch this first and then go back and put the pieces together. Either way, it works. People who are new to our channel, who are clicking onto this for the first time, we do want to share that we are an American family that adopted from China, but we do live in Japan, and we make a video about once a week about our life here and trying to live a little bit more sustainably. So if those things are interesting to you, or if you guys are interested in more of our China adoption series, we're not quite done filming that. We have a video about our dossiers coming out. We have a video about choosing a China adoption agency, and I think we're going to try to film a video about kind of ways to save money for your adoption if you're going to adopt from China or adopt from anywhere, because either way international adoption is really expensive, so keep an eye out for those. And other than that, I think we're ready to get started.
All right.
Okay, so in this video we are going to be, I don't know if I already said this, but we're going to be talking about days 14, 15, and 16 on our China adoption tour. I know it's a weird word, it's not a vacation, but that's the word that some people use, so that's what it's called. Anyway, we decided to do this as more of a sit-down video just because, as you saw in the title of our Bunyan Mountain video, things pretty much hit the fan at this point in our trip, and honestly, like, I was mentally exhausted. What about you?
I was ready to die.
Yeah, and I didn't want to pick up the camera, and there was nothing really to film except for maybe our reactions, but we were both so upset we just didn't go to where we were picking up the camera.
Not a fun time.
Yeah, no, it was awful. As you guys saw in the end of our Bunyan Mountain video, we were just kind of hanging out at home, and earlier in that day when we were at Bunyan Mountain, we received a phone call from the US consulate regarding our son's visa to enter the United States and also to go home with us in Japan, and they told us some really sad news. So when we were in China, I shot a little clip of what our reaction was, or at least what my reaction was, so I'm going to show you guys that, and then we're going to talk a little bit more. Oh, and one more thing I want to mention, because we are an expat American family living in Japan, our story and our situation with visas and everything was an unusual situation, which we're going to talk about a little bit more later, but I just want to throw that out there. This situation, if you are a regular American, standard regular family adopting from China, this particular situation probably won't happen to you, but if you are an expat family, it very well could. So we're aware this information is pretty much for people who just are interested, or for a very, very small group of people who would be watching this and have this experience. What's going on right now is we are supposed to fly out on Friday. It is currently Wednesday. However, at this point, we don't know if we can fly out on Friday. And I'm gonna tell you guys kind of the Reader's Digest version, just because, I mean, I don't honestly understand all the legal jargon behind it, but we were told when we started this process and kind of in the middle of this process that because we lived on a military base, we were technically on American soil, which meant that we would be able to go through the process in the same way that all the other American families who adopt from China go through. And it turns out that the US consulate in Guangzhou is either changed their minds or has inaccurate information or something. As of right now, we don't know if we're going to be able to leave on Friday morning, which is kind of scary. And the reason for that is because they started processing us for one visa type, but it turns out we actually need a different visa type because we're not actually in America, even though technically we are. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so now you guys have watched that. You guys have a little bit of an idea of kind of the headspace that we were both in. Would you say both of us, or was it just me?
Yeah,
okay, that we were both in the night before we were supposed to pick up our son's visa. At that point, we didn't know what was going to happen, and our original plans are pretty much just shattered. But for the sake of the story, Mr., do you want to share kind of what our original plan was for before all this stuff hit the fan, what we were going to do when we left China?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, wow, where to start? Oh my gosh. So our original plan was to go from China to Guam, which was what we were supposed to do according to USCIS, which is basically go to a U.S. territory that has a CBPO.
I don't think it necessarily had to be in Guam, right?
No,
Okay.
just a U.S.
Okay.
U.S. territory that has a CBPO office.
Okay, sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, you're
You're
good.
doing great.
So what we're supposed to do is you bring the adoption packet, the sealed adoption packet, to the CBPO officer, and they basically open it up, they look through the documents, make sure everything's there, and then you get your child's citizenship. Right, simple, right? Well,
And we know other adoptive families who are expats who have done that exact same thing from the part of Japan that we live in, and it's been completely fine. However, at our consulate appointment,
so Wednesday morning.
I'm so mad I can't even talk. I'm still mad.
Oh, yeah, me
Can't
too.
talk about it. Go ahead.
Me too. Wednesday morning, we had our consulate appointment. We were seen almost first one out of the crowd, and they said, we've got a problem. We're gonna have to work a few things out and get back to you. So we basically were put on the end of the line. So we had to watch everyone go through the whole process, and then finally, after everyone's gone, it's like empty in there, they're calling us back up. They said, oh, we can't issue your son's visa. I'm like, why?
And I think that they purposely made us wait because they didn't want to make a scene with all the other families
possible.
who were possibly, may or may not have been doing the same thing.
Possible.
But go ahead.
They said, we couldn't issue your visa because your plan is to go to Guam afterwards. And I'm like, yeah, well, we
That's
don't...
America. You said that we could go directly to America with our son and it would be fine.
We don't agree with you going to Guam to hand in your packet because you still live in Japan. I'm like, yes.
Kinda.
But Japan, the U.S. base is classified as a U.S. territory. So...
Oh, apparently not to that guy.
Yeah. So he said, well, that's true, but on October 28th, I think it was,
Yeah.
the policy is going to be changed, and so we can't allow you to do this. Granted, this was, I think it was October like 20th or something like that. So we planned this out specifically so we'd have enough time to do all these things.
Right.
And then state.gov basically said, U.S. Consulate state.gov basically said, well, we don't agree with USCIS's policies, and so we're not going to allow you to do this. I'm like, great. So USCIS said I could do this, but now you're telling me, even though the USCIS policy hasn't changed yet, that I can't do this because you're not allowing me to do this.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
pretty much. That's what we, and I kind of explained that a little bit, like in the breakout clip, the black pause that I did in the last clip. I mean, I know that the guy who was just doing his job, but at the same time, he was trying to do his job
properly, but he was trying to do his job.
No, I think that there was big mistakes made in our particular situation. We kind of, on the fly, made up a new plan with the consulate, which was
to do an extended visa, still go back to Guam, but the extended visa will allow us to go to the U.S. multiple times. So we would go to Guam with the visa, come back to Japan, finish our time in Japan, and then head back to the United States, and then finally do the citizenship paperwork. But this is where the next day happened.
Yeah, so it is Thursday morning, and on Thursday the only thing that we technically had scheduled was the picking up of the visa, and our guide went to the consulate that morning, of course with the expectation that she'd be picking up our visa, and she knew about everything that was going on already. But when she went there to pick it up, it wasn't ready because more crap was hitting the fan.
Oh yeah, and we're leaving tomorrow.
Right, and so by the time that we get this information, it is what, 11 a.m.?
Yeah.
Something like that, and our flight the next morning was at something like 9 a.m. or something like that. So of course, we're all panicking. Yep. At this point, we're like, okay, so even the other family was kind of worried that we were traveling with, was kind of worried for us because I didn't know who to talk to, so I talked to the other mom, and they were worried, we were worried. It was a disaster.
The best part about this is when I talked to the consulate, they didn't seem to be worried at all.
No.
They're like, yeah, it's okay, we'll try working out tomorrow. Yeah, okay.
Tomorrow's the flight day!
So they told us, yeah, tomorrow morning, we'll hopefully have it by tomorrow morning. So Friday comes along. We leave in 4 hours. I mean, on our plane in 4 hours.
Yeah, so pretty much we spent all of Thursday sitting in our hotel room waiting for them to call us.
Worrying
for them to call with an update, because they said they would call us with an update.
They did, that's right.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Yeah, no, I said they didn't ever call. And so I think that evening we went back to the vegan place that was nearby to eat dinner and hung out in the hotel room and played with toys and watched TV because there's nothing else that we could do. Oh wait, and we also like worried ourselves pretty much sick.
Yeah.
Like in that point, like we were both terrified that we weren't gonna be able to get out of China on time, and it would cost us a ridiculous amount of money to change all of our flights, and that we might be stuck in China. I think that we were at the consulate, they even said they weren't sure how long it would take to change all the stuff they had to change. And I even asked him, I said, so you're saying that you don't know how long we'll have to stay in China to get this sorted out? He said in a lot of other words, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what we're saying. So in my brain, like Mr. had to go back to work in a few weeks, but in my head, like I was making mental plans of like what it would be like for Luna and I to stay in China and figure all this out while Mr. went home and went back to work. Like it was awful.
Scary.
I think I slept like maybe an hour that night.
Yeah.
Like I would fall asleep and then I would wake up freaking out, being like, oh my gosh, I can't stay here. It was awful. Awful.
So keep that in mind when we go further on in the story, or how much sleep we got.
Oh my gosh.
Alright, so Friday morning came along. We finally got a phone call. Like I said, it was like 4 hours before we were supposed to be boarding our airplane. They told us, we're still unable to make the visa. I'm like, crap. Okay. So what do you want me to do? And I'm like, well, we can try again tomorrow. I'm like, you mean Monday? Because this is Friday. Oh yeah, Monday. No. Okay. Thankfully, I did work beforehand to get all the paperwork that I would need to bring our son as well as all of us back to Japan. Hopefully, I had all the paperwork all set up that would get us there based on various documents that were required. And I basically said, okay, give me all the documents. I want the packet back. I want our passports back.
It was a hot mess.
I had to change the airplane. I had to contact our guide. Granted, no Chinese number, so we had to work with the hotel's phone system to get all this situated and done. Thank goodness the change flight was hardly any cost whatsoever. So we got all this done in half an hour.
I think that the flight change cost, they were just being nice to us.
This is very possible. I think I told them my situation.
Yeah.
So they might have just been nice. I'm not sure. So thank you. Was it Korean Air? Yeah, Korean Air. Yeah, they're very nice.
The customer service with Korean Air.
We're not sponsored by them or anything, but they were really good.
But we're open to a sponsorship because we want to go to Korea in the fall or in the winter.
So long story short, 30 minutes, got all that done. We hopped in a bus, met our guide who we are working with. She got all our documentation back. Drove out to the airport. Took us like another hour, I think, to get to the airport. We had about 2.5 hours to go before the airplane left. So we're like, okay, I think we're gonna do this.
Yeah, and I think that when she finally got to the hotel to pick us up, she had no idea what was going on. All that she knew was that she was supposed to pick up all of our documentation from the consulate that they were working on and just bring it with her in a sealed envelope. And that is all that she knew. And so I'm pretty sure that she was freaking out, like thinking that she was gonna get into trouble. But it took us, I think it was like half an hour or so to the airport. Explained it to her the whole way, and then she understood. But then we get to the airport and even more fun starts to happen.
So this is where all my documentation that I prepared beforehand to hopefully get us back to Japan is put to the test.
We were told that it would work from our side. We weren't sure on the China side if the guy behind the desk or the woman behind the desk would know what they were doing, if their people they needed to talk to would be available. Anyway, it's a disaster. So we get to the check-in desk and we get up there and it's like 2.5 hours before our flight time. So we think in our brains, we're like, okay, we're all set. No, not so much. And then we get everything, we try to check in and they say, oh, you can't leave China with him. He doesn't have a visa. And then I was just so frustrated and upset. I was like, no, that's not correct. And then Mr. could tell that I was starting to get like really heated, kind of like I am right now. I think I need to calm down just a little bit. But I was like, you know what? My son has to go to the bathroom. I'm gonna take him to the bathroom. Where is it? And y'all are gonna figure this out. So I picked up my son and we went to the bathroom.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was like, I'd had enough. I feel like I kind of blocked out a lot of that. So you tell him what happened to the desk.
So while she was doing that,
there.
Yeah, while she was doing that, this is not a short duration. I started off telling the lady at the checkout, here's all my packet, here's all my information. This is why we should be let to go back into Japan. This is also why my child should be able to come with us into Japan. And so she looked through the documentation, called up a supervisor. This is like over about a half an hour time frame. I don't know why it took so long, but they just kept on shuffling us back and forth. And then finally, go over to the supervisor. So the supervisor said, okay, I'm gonna need to call the Japan airport to see if this is okay with them. So I pulled out one document, I provided it to the supervisor. She got it, scanned it over to the Japanese office, and she said, okay, we just need some time for the Japanese office to respond back to us, make sure it's okay.
Meanwhile, our son and I are sitting, you know, in the little like waiting area near the check-ins, trying to like be entertained, but it had been like 40 minutes he'd already been at the desk. And at this point, so we have less than 2 hours until our flight takes off.
Yep. So they come back to me finally about after half an hour saying, okay, we need this other document. I'm like, I already gave you the whole packet. You should have just sent the whole thing. But no, they asked for one thing at a time. So I gave them the second thing they asked for. Then they sent it off to the Japan office. And then about a half an hour again later, they come back saying, okay, you're all set to go. They're approving this. I'm like, okay, about time. Now, I don't remember.
Didn't we tell you that an hour and a half ago?
How much time did we have left? Was it less than like half an hour or 45 minutes before the boarding?
We had less than an hour to get through security, which was also like exiting passport checks.
So we get to security. I look at the security line, like, okay, whew, there's only a few people here. We're like running at this time. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Their security went through every single thing of every single person. And so it took forever to get through just those few people ahead of us.
There were maybe 10 families ahead of us. And usually, like when you go through like a TSA line, it's fine.
So we finally get through security. My heart is just going crazy. Mm-hmm. And we have about, I think, 5 to 10 minutes before boarding happens, and we have to go this long distance to get to where our airport is. Granted, I don't know the airport. I'm not sure where anything is. All I know is I see this long corridor. I'm like, oh crap.